it was really interesting to listen to Lisette. Our story is a little bit different, as our freedom of information request tool is already in their teens. 2 weeks ago it became 13-year-old. But let's see first the story behind it and why it was very important that we had this option. That after 13 years we can look at to this tool in a little bit different way as usual. Átlátszó is the first Hungarian non-profit investigative journalism center, which was founded in 2011. And when it was founded, it had a special focus on corruption, the use of public funds and political transparency. This year, it's really important because this was the same year when the freedom of information law started in Hungary. And we always say that it was a very good legal background starting this kind of work when using journalism and freedom of information requests together. We regularly request data from the first moment from public bodies, and the real problem is that when there are any information in these data which they don't want to come out, then we have to fight for the disclosure, even in court. But we think that it's very important that all freedom of information, all data owned by public bodies could be easily reached by not only by journalists, but also by other everyday citizens and also other non-profits or just partisan groups. At the moment, we can say that freedom of information in Hungary is very limited and often completely unexecuted mandatory disclosure requirements with a relatively efficient freedom of information request procedure. When we talk with other countries, then we have to say that the Hungarian law is really helpful for asking freedom of information requests. The question is that if we receive this. But still, so the 1992 law was first which was talking about the freedom of information requests, and there were some changes in the law, and there are some limitations, but still this is the way how we can reach this information. The main and the most important thing that anyone can ask this kind of information in any form, and any kind of question should be taken care as freedom of information request. And it's really important that we don't use, so that the institution cannot say that it's just a question or a freedom of information request. It's always a freedom of information request. And at this point, so from the beginning, it starts to be under this law. And this law says that they have 15 days to answer this, or they have 15 days to say that they need an extra 15 days to answer this. So they have to answer it in 30 days. Yeah, it sounds very ideal. And if they don't answer in 15 days or don't ask for this extra 2 weeks, the one who asks the question have also this 30 days to go to the court. So after 30 days, if there is no answer, there is no option to go to the court. The technology that you will answer the question again, and these 30 days start over. If you receive an answer that they don't have this information, they don't want to give it out because it's classified, they don't have it electronically, it's too much work to give it out, you can go to the court, and that's also very important that the legal background works that way, that you can go to the court free for the freedom of information requests, and it has to be covered in the court very quickly. So it's not that you wait years for the answer. The usual problem is not this. The usual problem is that no one is interested what the court says. So because that's the point, when the court says they have to give out the data, and they don't do that. So the final option is that you ask the police that, okay, you have the court order, and ask the police to help you to get the data out of them. It happened sometimes that we said that, okay, we will call the police for this. Usually, it happens that we know that there is something very important in those data which they don't want to give out. So this was the legal background, and Átlátszó started to work in 2011, and in 2012 we started TICTeC, which is, if you translate it, is who knows what. And of course, it was very important in these years for our donors, for our fundraising work, that, okay, we have to show numbers that how good this tool works. Átlátszó not only has this tool, but this was very important that we can use it, and also we can share it with the public, as we did it. And during our 13-year work, once we had a fund for dissemination work. It was nearly 3 years long, and it was very important because that was the time when we could get close to the people, to groups, activists, very small groups which are not formal big non-profits, and teach them how they can use the tool. And also we went to secondary school students to teach them that why freedom of information requests is a good tool to get out information from the state institutions. It's really important that we know, as journalists, that it's not enough that you receive. So you have to know what you want to ask, who to ask, and what the data means. So there are a lot of times that people ask questions, receive the answer, but they don't know that, is it too much? Is it too little? Is it all the information what they have? So this is an extra specialty, but the first step is that the institutions should know that everyone can ask anything from them, so they have to be prepared. During the dissemination, it was before COVID, and COVID really killed these workshops. It was really nice to see that there were institutions who felt that it's important that they communicate with the public. So during these 13 years, of course, we were tracking our work with several kind of numbers, but mainly we used 3 numbers when anyone or a donor asked us, okay, but how successful is TICTeC? Usually we say TICTeC is one of the most successful Alava televersions in the world, and I think that it's still true. Hungary is a smaller country with 10 million people, so we can say that it's quite nice. So usually we track these 3 numbers, the public authorities in the system, but it cannot become a really high number after a certain point. We also track the number of users and the number of requests. There was a time that we tracked the number of views, but honestly, it's the same. So there are not real changes by month to month or years to years, and so the system is not interesting to read. So you use it to get the information, and yes, the information is there publicly, but it's not something that people are interested in it, that, okay, who asked what. So if we check the numbers, I've just showed the last 3 years. So you can see that it's the same. So there are no real changes, and it was the same with the beginning. So the first 3,000 requests happened in a bit more than 2 years. So we have something 1,500 requests per year. We have always some new users. But honestly, it's not important that we want to double the number of the users or double the number of the requests, because you should use the system when you need an information. And as you can see, so the number of views is more closer to the changing of how Google collecting data. But so it's always nearly the same. We also did some other tracking, which is not so direct. Every year, of course, we look at our journalistic work and decide, okay, which were those articles which were based on freedom of information requests, which is not a good tracking tool, because we don't use only this technology to write articles. Also, we tracked how many articles we can write, we can find, but it's not a real number, and we cannot cover everything about that. But if it had a significant impact, so we can find it in our media monitoring information, which were based on freedom of information requests. It's really important that this is the only freedom of information request tool in Hungary. But anyone can send in a freedom of information request with an email. What was a real big difference when journalists who are not our journalists started to use this system, because it helped their work, because everyone can see when they ask this question and the question stays there. And also we found some requests on the system which had a major impact, but wasn't covered by the news or other journalists or by us, but locally made some major impact. There are a lot of things we don't track. So the system gives out a lot of information which doesn't really say anything about how good our work objectively. And during our 13 years or 14 years as the journalistic center, what we found out that sometimes freedom information requests is not reaching their goal at the moment, but after 5 years, someone will find another information connected to it. And it's good that we already have that information. So sometimes we have articles which at the point when it's published doesn't make a high impact, but after a few years it does. So, and the donors always want high reach, a lot of readers, because this is a nice number. I'm not only working in non-profit, but in the for-profit, and this is what I think that it's very important, that sometimes we have to understand that what we can reach is not always direct, and in journalistics, we've seen it in the last years, absolutely so. So we have some articles which were just lying, and it was out on our website, but no one was interested, and now they are using those information. Why was theory of impact very useful for us? One thing is that there was a funding which was based, okay, you don't have to reach something, but you have to look at what you are doing. And so we had the time for that okay, let's think about it, okay, what we are doing and how we can measure it. We didn't measure it at this point, but we found out how we can measure our work. So in the theory of impact, we created this message that Kimi tudbil advanced transparency and the use of freedom of information requests as an agent of transparency for users of the request in Hungary by simplifying the request process and by centering all data so that it's available for the Hungarian public. This is what's happening now. And what theory of impact gave us that we will track our progress with, and these two steps coming now. So we will track our progress by something else, which I told already, that, okay, the growth in the number of the public authorities, no. Growth in the number of users, no. Growth in the number of requests or the number of views, no. And we found already 3 points which a real progress tracker can be. The one is the growth of the recurrent users, which we haven't done until now. So if there are users who are coming back to us even after years and years and years, and it's really important that if someone was there 8 years ago, it happened once, do they come back? Also, the majority of users are highly satisfied with the platform, and majority of users find it easy to file a request on the platform. When we had our dissemination project, we asked users, that was the last time we asked the users how do they like the platform. Because we use the Átlátszónet platform, it's not easy to make changes to the tool from 1 month to another. But if we know that how these users feel now, and after some changes how they feel, then it will help the system itself and our tool as well. Okay. And so, as I said, there are 2 things what this told us. We will track our progress by, and okay, but how we will measure it, and we will track our progress with new indicators, and with regular user surveys, and we will use Átlátszónet platform analytics for the new indicators, because we found out that there are data which we didn't have the tool to find out how to use it, and the project just helped us to find a tool which called methodologies, so that the numbers can be used in an absolutely different way, and we can start to count the recurrent users, the top users who we missed, or and based on this information we can see if our users are small non-profits or small groups or persons themselves. So for us, the project, this theory of impact, what gave us, and it's really important, that yes, there is a way that you can measure your impact. Just you have to step back and look at your numbers, and look at your users from a different view. Thank you.